Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's Vesna here. Thank you so much for stopping by. For today's video, I am flipping a piece of furniture. So I got this potato box from the thrift store a little while ago, and it's just looking a little bit rough, so I'm going to be transforming it. So what I'm doing with this piece first is I'm just sanding it down lightly with just dollar store sandpaper. And it's a fine grit just to get a little bit of the gunk off and just to give it a little bit of a rougher surface for the paint to adhere to. So I've chosen the Serenity Blue from Rust-Oleum Chalked paint. And this paint is very similar to Duck Egg Blue from Annie Sloan if you use Annie Sloan paint at all. So I had this left over from a different project, and I'm going to just put a coat of it on. And the reason I've chosen this color of paint is because I also use the Duck Egg Blue on my island in the kitchen, so it'll just go well with that. And it's a very calming and soothing color in my opinion, so I love it. So anytime you're painting with chalk paint, you don't have to worry about brush strokes because chalk paint is very forgiving. And then you add the wax and everything, and it'll all just blend in really nicely. So I just go ahead and I paint the entire piece. Now I do leave the back as is because the back has holes in it for the potatoes and onions to breathe. And because I will be using this for potatoes and onions, I want to make sure that I don't cover it and risk, getting clogged with paint. So I'm just leaving the back as is. No one's going to see the back. It'll be to the wall, so it'll be fine. If you do want to paint the back of your pieces, then just make sure you kind of put something through those holes, but it wasn't necessary, so I didn't want to. And I'm also not painting the inside of it. I do go ahead and add 2 coats of this paint after. So I put one on, I let it dry, and then I put another coat on. Sometimes if I'm doing white chalk paint, I like to sand in between. I didn't for this piece, I just didn't find it necessary. But if your brush strokes are really visible and you're not liking it, it's a little bit of a rougher finish, you can always sand, but not hard sand, just really, really lightly sand with fine sandpaper, so that way you get a smoother finish. I also took off the little hardware and I just painted out the middle in blue, and I'll be painting around in black. And then I went and I put a little bit of chalked linen white paint into this cup, and I just dry brushed the edges and just a little bit onto the cabinet, and then I used a baby wipe and I blended it all together. It just kind of gave a little bit more depth to this piece, so I always like to layer the paints and just kind of give it a unique color. So every piece that I make is a little bit different. And after I do that, I add black wax, and same method, I add the black wax lightly and then I just wipe it off, and then if I've added too much, I add the paint back on. So again, that's what I love about painting, is if you make a mistake, you can always just go back to your original paint. It's not set in stone that you can't get it back to the way it was. So if you haven't been to my channel before, welcome. My name is Vesna, and this is my DIY channel where I do all sorts of fun DIYs, thrift flips, trash treasures, Dollar Tree DIYs, holiday themed decor, tray decor, anything home decor that I can make on a budget, I do. So if that's the kind of stuff you like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave me a comment letting me know that you stopped by. I also have another 2 channels. I have a cooking channel and a home channel where I showcase all of my DIYs. So check those out as well. And this video is a part of a challenge hosted by the Mug Life DIY. She hosts this DIY challenge monthly, and it's the Flippin Furniture challenge, where you have to take a piece of furniture and make it over any way you want, whether you use it for something else or you just make it beautiful again, that's up to you. And she always has a co-host, and this month's co-host happens to be my sister, Sonia, over at Domestic Diva DIY. So if you haven't checked her out, she is Very, very talented. She also has another 2 channels. On her DIY channel, you can find, again, furniture flips, thrift flips, trash treasures, DIYs, all sorts of DIY. So check her out as well. There'll be a playlist which I'll have linked in my description below. So I'll have the hosts and the playlist linked below. Sometimes the playlist doesn't work, so I might add it to the comments as well. So thanks, and let's continue with the furniture flip. So when I saw that it was a little bit too dark, I went back, and like I said, I went back with the original paint, and then I just used a baby wipe to blend everything together. And it was just to not have it be so dark. And because when I was rubbing the wax in, I also got a little bit of the original paint off because I hadn't done the protective wax yet. So I just corrected it, and that's what I mean. Like, whenever you do this kind of painting, it's great because you can just go back and forth until you get the look that you're going for. And I just repeated this until, like I said, I achieved the amount of dark that I wanted on this piece. And like I said, once I achieved the look that I wanted, I used my Cricut to cut out onions and potatoes using the Magnolia Sky font. And I made a stencil with vinyl, and then I painted on the words with black acrylic paint. I got this little stencil brush from the Dollar Tree, and I like to use that for when I do these stencils. Now, be careful when you're applying your paint to the stencil. You don't want to put too much, otherwise it'll bleed. I did put a little bit more than I should have because sometimes I get impatient, and you're better off doing several lighter coats rather than trying to cake on too much. So I did wind up doing 2 coats. I probably could have done 3 and done a little bit lighter, but it's okay. So I did have a little bit of correcting to do after. And with the correcting, if I kind of mess up on anything, or if I take too much off or whatever, I sometimes use a Sharpie if I can with the black, or I paint over it and then I do it again with a fine point brush. But for this one, all I just had to do was just fill in a little bit of the black just because it bled, so I just made a few of the lines a little bit wider. I didn't record myself doing that because you couldn't see the angle of the camera. It was too hard to get from you to be able to see just because of the way this piece is. And then, like I said, I also painted the little handle I did around it. I did black just to get a little, just for it to be a little bit more modern than it is. And here is the finished piece. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And as I said, I didn't do anything on the inside. Let me know what you guys think of this. And does anyone use these? I don't know if that's like a thing that used to be used and people don't use them anymore. I absolutely love it. I just find that it's a great place to store these potatoes. I might move it to the other side just because, and there's my cat, say hello to Misho. I might move it to the other side just because we have the heat register there, so it might be too hot in here, but for now it'll stay here, and then we'll see if I wind up moving it somewhere else if the potatoes don't keep. And thank you so much for watching. Check out the playlist and the hosts and these videos I'm recommending at the end. Thanks, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Have a great day.